Welcome, this is Redheadtakes. Welcome to my ranking of all the areas from Dark Souls 1. Last week we did bosses, now today we're going to do all the areas from top to bottom, ranking them from best to worst, and the ones in between, and the ones that are very close to being terrible, but just have enough memorability to not be so. Now, I love Dark Souls. I love most of the areas in the game. I think they're really cool, and some of them aren't as inspired as the others, but there are some on this list that a lot of people would say are bad, that I would say are good to at least memorable, just because of the design that was put into it. But let me know what you think down below. As always, subscribe, comment, like. Supposedly, when I say these words, it magically helps the YouTube algorithm find more viewers. But you know how that goes. But let me know what you think, and let's get into the tiers. God tier, obviously the best of the best. Great, the ones that are just below, that are still enjoyable but don't have as much. The memorable tier is the in between. These are heroes that are very memorable, but are they really good, or do they have much to them? Maybe not so much. The bad ones, that would just suck to go to, and they kill me now. The areas that I just hate to go to every time I play them, just because there's so many different area or things that go on here. But starting off with the first area, Northern Undead Asylum. I think it's a great tutorial area. I mean, you have the Asylum Demon, you meet Oscar of Astora. We have some roving race, some skeletons. Usually the area is pretty easy to go to, even with a lower class weapon. Of course, the first time around when you face the Asylum Demon, you run to the side door to escape, and then you get to plunge your sword into him and defeat him. But it's a fun little area. I think it's a perfect tutorial, showing you the ins and outs of the game, getting to explore the area. There's an area in this area where you get to exchange items with the crow. That doesn't open up right away. When you come back around and then you face the stray demon, then yes, then you can trade items with Snuggly the crow to, get better items. But until then, it's just a fun, pretty cool area. Not God tier, but it's certainly a good area to start. Firelink Shrine, of course, is the main hub area. The main hub area that links many areas of the game. It links you to New Londo. It links you to Undead Burg and Valley of the Drakes. A couple of other areas. It's a great area. Lots of different NPCs coming in and out. It's just a cool area. It's one of only four areas in the whole game that has active sound. Nice little somber tone, kind of welcoming in a creepy, eerie way, but it's definitely a good area to start. I think it is a little better than the tutorial area, but this is where you're going to be spending a lot of your time going into interacting with the firekeeper, interacting with the guy from Karam. Lotric is there eventually, the Crestfallen Warrior for a short time, or for the first couple of bosses that you'll encounter. The Firekeeper. It's just a great area. Not a lot of combat, of course. Of course, this area also links you to the catacombs and such as well. So there are some areas of danger when you go down. There's a little cemetery area off to the side, where there's some skellies there. Definitely, of course, want to have a divine weapon to put them down, otherwise they'll keep coming up over and over again. So definitely get one of those as soon as you can, but it's a nice little area after the great tutorial area. Undead Burg. Undead Burg is memorable, but I don't know, it's not the best. It's just kind of boring. You're fighting random guys. You meet the skeleton merchant, who, if you kill him, you get a nice sword called the Uchigatana, which is a nice weapon that you can use through a large portion of the game before it gets stats out. You get to meet the fire drake for the first time. No bosses in this area. Undead Burg will link you to, of course, the Undead Parish, and link you down to the Dark Root Garden. It's a nice little area. It's not as good as the Firelink Shrine or Northern Undead Asylum, but it is one of those first big areas that you go to. Usually is the first area you'll go to after Firelink Shrine, depending on how many times you played, or if you've never played. If you never played it before, I would suggest going to Undead first, because the enemies are pretty manageable for the most part. Of course, as always, never want to get ganged up on, especially early on. You're gonna go down just like that. Yeah, it's a nice little area. Memorable, but not the best. Undead Parish. I like the Undead Parish. Of course, you have, in this area, you have the gargoyles. You have the fire drake, of course. You have it where it links you to the deaths. And some nice enemies, some annoying enemies as well. There's a Black Knight who's a big pain in the ass. Hate the Black Knight. I hate the Black Knights in this game. Now, later on in the game, when you face the Black Knights, of course, they get a little easier, but there's the first Black Knight in between Undead Burg and Undead Parish that you go to, and when you're first going through the game, I would advise not facing him right away if you don't have a grip on the combat system, because he will kill you in 3 hits, and he doesn't give you a lot of time to recover. And then you have another Black Knight in the Undead Parish, where you have to crawl up a winding staircase, and you'll find a Black Knight at top of a parapet. The goal here for this Black Knight is to run down the staircase. Actually, before you even get to that point, there's going to be, when you get to the Undead Parish, you're going to see a metal boar, a bunch of enemies. Kill those as fast as possible. Kill those out of the way before you take on the Black Knight. That way, all you have to deal with is the Black Knight, because the Black Knight is hard enough. Otherwise, if you take on the Black Knight and do the strategy that I'm telling you now, you'll have guys shooting arrows at you. There's a skelly right up the staircase there, and of course there's the boar if you haven't taken him out. So that's a pain, because this Black Knight has a giant Black Knight greatsword, and he has a couple attacks where he just lunges forward, and it's a lot longer. It has a longer reach than you think. And then he swings the sword up, and that also has a really long reach. So you have to try and duck him, let him attack, and then at this point I try and have a halberd and just put up my shield and boom, boom, boom. But he is kind of a pain in the ass. Of course, you have, when you get to the Undead Parish, you come across a Chandler that's shooting magic. He's kind of a pain in the ass at the beginning. Once you get past, you'll go up the staircase, find an area, a bunch of hollows, or let them come to you and slowly knock them off. Go to the gargoyles. Go to the guy that sells purging stones, which you'll want to get a couple of them for. I'll tell you about that soon enough. And of course, before then you have the Taurus Demon, which is fun to go. But overall, there's a lot to do in the Undead Burg, and of course, it links you to where you meet Andre for the first time. And there's a nice little shortcut that can bring you, a nice little elevator that can bring you back down to Firelink Shrine. There's so many little shortcuts in this game that are fun to go over and find. And when you find them, it makes traveling so much easier, because if you go through this whole game and don't find the shortcuts, which would be hard to do because they're just kind of right there if you're paying attention, there's a lot of backtracking. And these shortcuts cut down on a lot of the backtracking in this game. But it's a really good area. I know I've been really long-winded about this one, but it's one of my more favorite areas. And still not God tier, but it's close. Oh, now here's the one where we go to Kill Me Now. Now, the deaths on its own, the Gaping Dragon is a fun boss fight. That's for sure. He's not too hard. He's probably on the lower tier of the boss. I remember I put him in the mid tier, I believe. He's fun to fight, but the deaths as a whole is so annoying. First of all, you're going down into a dark area. There's a bunch of hollows. Then there's a butcher who's cutting up meat. Assumingly, he's a cannibal of some sort of. Well, I think it's a she, but cutting. It's actually kind of a tough boss. There's a couple of dogs, so you want to take out the poison dogs. Yeah, these dogs cause poison, so you'll want to take them out quickly. But the butcher is actually can take a lot of hits and deals a lot of damage too. So, uh, like I said earlier, a lot of the times I use a strength build for the most part and started with a halberd. It's a nice long reach, keeps enemies at a distance. You're able to put up your shield and block that, but the butcher will take out pieces of health very quickly. And then there's areas where you're going through the water. You'll crease an area with a giant rat, kill him off. It's pretty quick, easy. But then there's a bunch of tunnels and there's a bunch of holes. And now you're gonna want to run and jump over those to avoid it in order to get to the area with the gaping dragon. And before you get to the dragon or gaping dragon, there's an area with a channeler and a couple hollows. And the more you complete the game, the more you get the new game plus plus. They start to deal more damage. Now, in another one of my playthroughs, I'm on like new game plus 3 times or something, and they do a lot of damage. And there's a channeler there, and you have to avoid trying to take out the hollows that are taking away maybe a third or close to like or 25% of your health at a time. Like, you have to be careful. Now, the channeler is pretty easily the first time around. I mean, you just got to be careful, use your shield and everything depending on your build, and then you'll get to the Gaping Dragon. But back to what I was talking about, there are tunnels and there's holes. As you follow down those holes, there's going to be a bunch of basilisks at the bottom, and a lot of them, usually 4 or 5 of them. Now, basilisks, one at a time, are easy enough to handle. Just let them fill their lungs with curse, kill them, and then they go away. But if you fall into an area where there's 4 or 5 basilisks, and then you have 2 or 3 that are full bore at the same time and they shoot curse, you're going to end up cursed. And you know what happens when you get cursed? Half your life is halved for the rest of the time until you find a purging stone. Now, there's that shopkeeper that I told you about after you kill the gargoyles. You're going to want to have a couple purging stones at all times. That way, if you end up getting cursed, when you come back at the fire, use a purging stone, you get your full health back. But they're just a real pain. If you don't have purging stones and you get cursed, it becomes not fun. It happened to me, and it is really fun. And it's a lesson you just have to learn. If you do get cursed, you'll learn to never not have purging stones ever again. But yeah, the death is not fun. It's hard to navigate. There's winding ending corridors, and I always forget how to actually get to the Gaping Dragon because it's not as clear. But once you get to the Gaping Dragon, kill him off, get the dragon weapon, of course, now leave the depths, and you never have to go back. Just one of those areas, whenever I play the game again, I just hate the depths so much, it sucks. Blighttown. Now, Blighttown is kind of a memorable area. It's not bad. I mean, I've grown to, especially now with the remastered Dark Souls, it's gotten better. The frame rates of the early Dark Souls are really not as bad as what it used to be. I mean, you still have the mosquitoes and the poison, but if you build up on a lot of purple moss clumps, you can avoid it and run through the swamp easily. And the Blighttown is kind of fun. It's a fun area because there's these slugs, and you go around just over and over, killing all of them, go back to the fire, kill them again, and you build up green titanite, which can be used to upgrade fire weapons and stuff like that, which I recommend you do. I recommend you have a fire weapon at some point in this game. In the Blighttown, you have these big guys with their giant stones, so you want to watch out for those. The enemies here aren't too bad. Now, going down into Blighttown for the first time, I would recommend going in through the Valley of the Drakes, which, of course, grab the Master Key, of course, is your first item. And, yeah, there's those big guys throwing the stones that you take a good amount of damage. So, like I said, halberd, boom, 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 dodge out of the way, boom, 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 and you'll get through them. But the bugs are always a hassle, especially with the lock-on features. Not always the most reliable, but walk onto the insects. They're usually one shot. And then in White Town, you have one of the better bosses in the game, Chaos Witch Quelaag, who is a great boss, really good test of your early game or grab on the game. Also in White Town, you meet a daughter, a sister of Quelaag, who is a merchant. You also meet an NPC that you can save from the butcher, who will sell you pyromancies and stuff like that. It'll link you to the Great Hollow and eventually Ash Lake, so that's cool. And then after you beat Chaos Witch Quelaag, it'll reach you to her sister, who's just like a kind of like a half dead version of Quailana. And then that'll reach you to the Demon Ruins and Lost Isle eventually. But Point Town is kind of a fun area. It's not as great as the Undead Parish, Firelink Shrine, but it's still a memorable area. Maybe not the best, but it's a memorable one for sure. And a lot of lore, or some decent amount of lore implications as well. Now we're going to go to another one that I really hate, the Great Hollow. The Great Hollow on its own is not bad. I mean, it's kind of cool. You're just climbing down a giant tree, but that's the kicker. Climbing down the giant tree, you have to walk across these narrow branches. All the while, there's guys throwing stuff at you, so you have to avoid that because one wrong step and you're falling all the way down and you're dead. Also, halfway down the tree, you come across more basilisks. Like I said earlier, the death, you'll want them to blow up, you kill them, and then they're dead. But there's a couple of them there, and they can gang up on you really, really easily. So you're gonna want to avoid them or aggro them one at a time. Boom, boom, and then dodge out of the way whenever they're close to cursing you. Bam, bam. And then at the bottom of the Great Hollow, if you make it that far, because trust me, the Great Hollow, your first time around, probably, depending on your skill, might take you about 10 or 15, 20 minutes to get down, just because you have to be so careful climbing down that fucking tree, because you can so easily roll off and find your way dead, and then you're climbing down the tree again, because there's no fire in between the top of the tree and the bottom. There's one right before you get to the tree, and then the next one is an Ash Lake, so be careful about where you're going. And then at the bottom of the tree, you have these giant mushroom guys who are kind of cool looking. I mean, giant sentient mushrooms. I mean, that's pretty fucking cool. But they hit hard. They really hit hard. Now, the little ones are easy enough to take care of, although they can gang up on you and start taking away damage. But the big ones, watch these guys like a hawk, because when you start killing off their little babies, they start coming and they swing. They take off half or 1/3 of your health every time, and you stay down for a little bit, and they can easily just bam, 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 you're dead. And there's a couple of them. I think there's like 4 or 5, 3 or 4 of them there. You can run past them and avoid them, and then just get to Ash Lake. But if you want the souls, they have a nice little soul count. I think 4,000 or 5,000. No, not that much. 2,000 or 3,000. So they're a nice catch when you're first running through, but they deal a lot of damage. So, I mean, what's all said and done, is Great Hollow worse than the Depths? Yeah, I'd say so, just because of how long painstakingly it takes to get down the tree. And top of with the basilisks and the mushroom guys, they'll be taking your health away just like that. And then we get to Ash Lake, and Ash Lake is a memorable area for sure. There's really not much to it, but when you open to this arching orchestra comes up, oh, it's like an old primordial sound. Like this is an ancient area, because this is the area. This is the opening cutscene. The craggy trees, the stone dragons. It's like the opening area you see when you first open the game. And then there's a Hydra, and he's pretty easy to take care of. But like with any of the Hydras in the game, there's a is a drop off, and you gotta watch out for the drop off because the Hydra's gonna keep swinging its heads and just bam, bam, one at a time, knock them out, eventually to go away. And then there's these giant clam things, which also deal a lot of damage, similar to the Mushroom Men. And then there's a giant stone dragon who you can get into a covenant with, and you get some items. There's some items around the area, but I mean, as far as lore goes, there's a lot of really good lore with this area, but I mean, there's not much to it. There's a couple items here and there, some chunks here and there, some Titanite shards, but more so it's just cool just for the feel. Great feel, something ancient. This is where it all began in the Dark Souls world. Just ancient dragons and nothingness. Just not much. That's just crags and stone dragons. But I like the musical score that goes with it, and I always do join the Covenant because the Stone Dragon looks pretty awesome. Next, Sen's Fortress. I'm not gonna put it in bad because it is a fun area because there's a lot of different puzzles, and the vipers there can be fun. They look just like the Snake Baron from Berserk, and it's definitely another one of those Berserk ties between Dark Souls and Berserk. But there's a lot of areas in here. There's the swinging blades, which aren't very fun. Man, I'm going to keep it in here because it is fun. It's just a big pain because there's so many different traps. There's a Titanite demon, or there's a couple Titanite demons in there. There's giant boulders that you have to watch out for and change the direction of the boulders and make your way through. There's all sorts of traps. When you leave Sen's Fortress, it'll lead you to the top of the tower where you fight the Iron Golem. There's Iron Golems throwing giant bombs. To be honest, there's just not a lot of fun to say about Sen's area. It's just an iconic area for me. It's a memorable one. I don't think it's the kill me now of the Depths or the Great Hollow, but I just don't want to say it's bad because it's a fun area. It's creative. It's inventive. It's not bad. It's just a killer, especially the first time through. Now, going through New Game Plus when you have 20 or so Estus West, then it's not so bad. But when you're going through with only 10, it can be a pain. It can be a real pain because there's not a lot of bonfires in here, and you really got to be careful because one wrong step, you're hit off by giant swinging blades, you're knocked off by the lightning from the vipers, and yeah, it's just not the best area, but it's a memorable one for sure. Our first god tier 1, Anor Londo, the city of the gods, looks so beautiful, although there's a shadow. It feels like it has lost some of its luster when you get there. There's giant knights when you first enter there, and then you get to the Silver Knights and the arrows. Now, that part really sucks. Getting past the Silver Knights across the rooftops is a challenge for sure. And when you actually achieve it, it feels so good. It feels so good to get past the Silver Knights. The first time I went through here, it took me forever. It took me a couple hours to get through here because, again, it's like the Great Hollow. One wrong step, or if you get knocked off by the arrows, then you're dead. And they actually take a lot of hits. So, plus the Silver Knights have the giant bow and arrows that if you get hit and you're in the wrong area, you're going to fall and you're going to be dead. There's these giant winged creature things that bring you to Anor Londo that are kind of hard. They have lightning attacks. You get to meet the giant blacksmith, who's cool and can upgrade your weapons really well. And of course, you have the best thing ever, Ornstein and Smo, one of the best boss fights of all time. The gang fight, of course, the one and only gang fight in the Dark Souls series. It's really great. And of course, you have Guinevere and her big titties. She looks gorgeous. Don't want to kill her. If you kill Guinevere, Anor Londo will go dark, and it's just not as fun as with the light. Um, you also have Guinevere here eventually. You have the giant painting of the world of Ariamis, which you'll go to when you get the peculiar doll. It'll bring you in or fight Priscilla. But come to think of it, yeah, Painted World is on there. That'll be next. But Anor Londo, God tier area, beautiful. The war significance here is fantastic. City of the Gods, Guinevere, Gwendolyn, Nameless King. Well, not really, not really in this one, but yeah, it's a really fun area. Although it has its parts where you just want to rip every pube out of your ball sack as you want to. But it's a fun area nonetheless. Painted World. Painted World is a great area too. Really cool. I mean, snow, barren. There's all sorts of demon creatures here. There's a giant poison dragon that you have to kill before you get to Priscilla. There's the Phalanx, which is really cool. I like the Phalanx because if you really want to upgrade your skills, upgrade your weapons, get lots of souls, kill the Phalanx. There's a couple of Phalanx here, and if I remember right, when you go through on the first time, every time you kill the Phalanx, it's like 10,000. It's like between 7,000 and 10,000 souls. Now, if you keep killing them over and over, going to the bonfire, recycling and recycling, you can bulk up your guys quite quickly. It's a really nice area for that. There's some falls here and there. There's the painted guardians, which are kind of a pain in the ass, but you come up to Crossbreed Priscilla, and she's like, how did you come to be? Now, this is just a theory out there, but Crossbreed Priscilla is a result of Seath the Scaleless screwing Guinevere, so it's horrifying. It's a horrifying thought, but Crossbreed Priscilla, as I ranked her in my boss battle, was in the middle to upper tier. She's a pretty fun boss, although she can be a pain in the ass, especially trying to get her tail. But Painted World is great. It just feels somber. It feels like it's a prison keeping something there. And of course, Crossbreed Priscilla went there because she was Abomination. She went there to avoid the criticisms of the world. But definitely love to go there for the Phalanx to upgrade your guys. And it's just a fun little area. Nice little lore implications in there as well. Darkroot Garden. Now, Darkroot Garden is a good area as well. More lore significance, of course. Here you have the tree beasts that kill you. You have the Forest Keeper's Covenant. I'm sorry, I probably got that wrong, but then you have Great Wolf Sif is there. You have another Hydra. You have the entrance to Ulusil. At the bottom of the tower, you have Havel of Rock. I almost forgot that name. You have a couple Black Knights along the way. There's a couple bonfires in there. The Forest Keeper's Covenant that you joined is pretty cool. Oh, also you have Moonlight Butterfly, who sucks. The entrance to Ulusil is fun to find. Yeah, there's a good amount of bosses in here. It's cool to start. Now to get to the Darkroot Garden, you have to go down the stairs from Andre of Astora, and it'll bring you to the Darkroot Garden, Darkroot Basin, and yeah, it's just a fun little area. There's these cat creatures towards the end that are not fun. They are not fun to fight. They're really hard. And they take a lot of damage as well, but it's a fun little area. More lore implications, of course. And other than that, I don't have much more to say. New Londo Ruins. Now, New Londo Ruins is memorable for sure, but one thing that really sucked about this area is the ghosts. You have to have a curse on you so you can actually kill the ghosts. They can gang up on you really fast because there's a lot of them build up quickly. For those that don't know about the lore implications, you have this is where the four kings ruled over New Londo. They were getting more and more evil, and then it was flooded, and all the ghosts there are ghosts of all the people that were lost in the flooding. You get to hear from the Valley of the Drakes. and from, of course, from Firelink Shrine. Definitely one of the later area you want to tackle. You can probably tackle it early on, but um, for me, I would usually wait till later in the game, and then you fight the Four Kings. Four Kings are a fun fight. I never really had trouble with the Four Kings, but it's a fun fight nonetheless. It's a good area, but the ghosts can be a pain in the ass. To be honest, they can really be a pain in the ass. The Duke's Archives. Memorable. Put them in memorable. Put it at the top of memorable. It's fun, but at the same time, the Pasakas, the creatures that the maidens were turned into by Seath, they can be kind of hard. Big Hat Logan is here. You wake up in here in a cell here after you fight Seath for the first time because you can't beat him because you can't destroy his crystal, keeping him immortal. There's a bunch of archers here, poison. It's just not a fun area. I always forget some of the puzzle elements in this area. It's a memorable area because it's where Seath did all his research and stuff, but not a lot to say. Now with the more fun areas, to be honest. Again, Crystal Caves is also it's a fun area too. It's where you fight Seath, of course. There's lots of moonlight butterflies all over, but you can just avoid them. There's fun little areas where, there's fun little areas where you have to crawl over an invisible area. Now you can avoid that, or you can know where to step by just watching the crystal and the snowfall, and it'll literally lead you on. But you can easily fall into a giant pit and die, lose all your souls. But there's really not much to this area. Maybe I'll put it in bad just because there's not a lot here. You have Seath, which is fun, but yeah, no, we'll put it down here. There's just not a lot to it, to be honest. It's just basically a gateway to Seath, and then other than that, you're not gonna spend a whole lot of time here. The Demon Ruins, yeah, it's not great. It feels like it was a loss of time in the development cycle. And of course, you have lots of Capra demons and lots of Tortoise demons. The Tortoise demons are fine, and Capra demons still do a lot of damage, but at least you're not in a really small area like you are in the Depths and Undead Burg. It is a cool area with the lore implications. I like the lore implications because this is where the demons came from. This is right before Lost Isles. There's the Centipede demon here. Ceaseless Discharge, of course, worst name ever. Just again, another walkthrough area before you get to cooler areas like the Lost Isles. Lost Isles, I think, is memorable because of the lore implications. I know it's not great because it has Bed of Chaos, which is what the Witch of Isles turned into. And then you have Demon Fire Sage, who's a reskin. You have one of the witch's daughters tries to fight you. Is a relatively easy fight. You have a couple NPCs here. The name is blanking on me for a second. I know the guy looking for his son. I know I should know his name, but I don't right now. I just like some of the architecture of the area. It's just a wonder of like what this city used to be. What it used to be. It used to be this thriving area with the witch and her daughters and the people who lived there before they were all turned into demons. I know the Bed of Chaos fight isn't fun, but the lore implications of that area. Of course, the Ceaseless Discharge is the son of the Witch of Izalith, and it's kind of sad and somber because it's just a once mighty area, once mighty city turned into ruin. because of trying to recreate the flame. The catacombs. Yeah, the catacombs suck. It's just not a fun area. There's a way you can uh, dodge roll, and if you know where to drop, you can drop down and make your way to the, the skeleton blacksmith, and then make your way to the tomb of the giants. The catacombs, there are ways around it, but other than that, if you go through the catacombs, there's lots of skeletons. There's some spirits here and there. It's just not a fun area. Again, it's another area where I forget where to go. There's so many different ways you can go, and there's holes you can drop into areas you don't want to be. But not a very memorable area at all. At least not in a good way. Tomb of the Giants, again, not a great area. Again, you're going through, there's darkness, and there's these giant dog skeletons. You can use the sunlight maggot on your crown, but then you lose some armor if you use like Havel's armor or other armors as well. You have to hold up a light and then only be able to single wield a sword. So that sucks because if you don't use any light of any kind, it's pitch dark. It's black. It's literally where the diamonds, or where the giants were captured. They died. Now going down into the Tomb of Giants, there's a nice bright area where you can see the bottom of Ash Lake. So that's kind of cool, but just a lot of darkness. And then you come across, from earlier catacombs, you can meet Pinwheel, who's not a very easy or not a very hard boss. But of course, you have Tomb of the Giants, where you have Graveyard Nito, one of my favorite bosses out there, because just the design looks so cool and it's a fun boss fight. But just not a lot to say about the Tomb of the Giants. Just because it's so dark and it's so hard to find your way, and you just wanna jump because it sucks. The Valley of the Drakes. Again, this is an area you can get to. We'll put Valley of the Drakes right here. The Valley of the Drakes is an area you can get to from Firelink Shrine with the Master Key. And of course, it links you to Blighttown. There's lots of dragons here that are really hard customers. Shoot lightning. There's another poison dragon which killed me on one of my more recent playthroughs, and I lost like 100,000 souls. It really sucks because it shoots poison, it takes a lot of hits, it deals out a lot of damage as well. It's just, there's not a lot to it. It's basically a run through area, not a lot of lore or implications here. It's just a memorable area because of all the dragons, poison dragon, and it connects you to a lot of different areas, links you to where the gate to the New Londo is, and yeah, this is not the greatest area. Well, I mean, there's a gate that releases all the water out of New Londo, and then it'll take you to the Four Kings and stuff, but not a great area. I mean, it's a memorable area, but just because of the way it looks, but there's just not much to it. Kiln of the First Flame. I like the Kiln of the First Flame because although the run back if you lose to Gwyn is not fun because there's lots of silver, lots of black knights there, but at this point you should be powered up. You should be able to fight through the knights well enough, and then you get to Gwyn, the Lord of Cinder, the final battle of the last boss in the game. You can just tell it's a dang desolate area. There's a nice little area walking down steps, and you see ghosts of the Silver Knights before they were singed in flame. It is a cool area with the lore implications. Of course, this is where Gwyn lit the fire to keep the Age of Fire alive, and a lot of lore implications here. And I think it's just a fun area, even though it can be hard to run back through if you happen to lose to Lord Gwyn. I like the Chasm of the Abyss a lot. It's fun. It's kind of a fun area for me. It's really dark, but you get to kill all these black soul creatures. It leads you to Manus, another one of my favorite bosses out there. Definitely one of the harder bosses for sure, but it's a fun area. Of or this is where the darkness came from. The pygmy that became Manus is. The fight with Manus is just absolutely tip top. Of course, you see Grey Wolf Sif here during the fight, who's protected by Artorias' spell. It's a fun little area, one that I remember a lot. Royal Wood, there's just not much to it. I mean, it's like a color palette swap of Darker Garden, so maybe we'll put it in memorable because it leads you right up to Ulasil. But really, the only thing here is like there's some enemies here. There's Sanctuary Guardian, which is a somewhat fun fight, but not the hardest fight out there unless you tackle him right away. But yeah, not much to say about this one. And then last but not least, we have Ulasil. We have all the cursed monsters. You have there's a lot, or I'm going to put Ulasil up here because you have the fight with Calamate. You have the fight with Artorias, my all-time favorite boss fight. I think I put Artorias at the top. You meet Hawkeye Gal. You meet Kieran the other night, and who you can fight. There's a nice PvP area here. This is a really fun area. The enemies are relatively easy to fight, but lore implications, of course. The city that was destroyed because the Abyss was taking over, and there's lots of demons running around. It's just a fun area. It's a great lead up to the Chasm of the Abyss with the fight against Manus, of course. And it's just one of the god tier areas of Dark Souls, in my opinion. But there you have it. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. Subscribe, comment, share it with your friends. I hope this does as well as my last Dark Souls tier. I love a lot of the areas of Dark Souls. There are some bad ones for sure. Some ones that you just want to, slam your head against the wall when going through. But it's still one of the best games I've ever played. It should be remembered fondly for its game design, its lore, and its just graphics. It's a great game. Again, I will try and talk about the game more in the future. I'm going to try and start up a stream in the next week or so. So watch out for that on my Twitch channel. I'll probably announce in my community tab when I'll be streaming. But let me know what you think. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.